Is this thing on? It is. All right, I'm DaRock, and welcome back to another video of Layup Lines, my college basketball best bets and preview show here on the channel. We're doing this every Tuesday and Friday, so if you're into college basketball, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to shout out you guys. Last video said, hey, we're one subscriber away from 50. If we hit it, I'm looking to try to do a giveaway here. We've hit 3 more subscribers since last episode. We're up to 52. So I am going to try to get that giveaway set up. But my next goal, can we hit 60 subscribers by the end of conference play? So if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, make sure to comment your predictions from these games, what games you're going to be watching. Like I said, I'm going to shout out some commenters. And 2, I got to start here with my guy, Draw on Spotify. I think he might have had the script. He said, Big Ten road test for Michigan State at Penn State and Iowa at Minnesota. He thinks Michigan wins a close game, but the Hawkeyes get bounced in Rowdy Williams Arena. He commented that last episode. He got both those games spot on, so shout out to him. And like I said, if you want to get shouted out next episode, make sure to drop your predictions down in the comments. So let's get into it. We start here on Saturday with the 21st ranked Tennessee Volunteers heading to the Florida Gators. Tennessee 11-4 on the year, Florida 10-5. Florida's also currently a 5.5 point favorite in this one with the total 153.5. So both these teams 1-1 now in conference play, pick up nice wins over the week. Tennessee dominating Texas, Florida really turning it on in the second half against Georgia. For both of them to get in the win column here in SEC play after losing their openers to Arkansas and Missouri, respectively. So for Tennessee, their leaders, Ja'Cory Gillespie, he's averaging 18.7 points per game, as well as 5.7 assists. He went for 34 in that win against Texas, so had a really good game. And then on the Florida side, it's Thomas Haw going for 17.5 points per game. And then on the rebounding side, Roman Chinyalu with 10 boards and Alex Condon with 3.6 assists. Both Condon and Haw had really nice games against Georgia. So this is one, as you can see, the ranked team going on the road and is the underdog. Usually when I see that, that is cue for me to bet the home team, to pick the home team to win this one. And honestly, like I said, Florida, you see that record, 10-5. Is it great? No, but a lot of the losses are to very good teams, to close games. Obviously, that Missouri loss last week is not a good loss, but you know what? That's one to start conference play on the road. And honestly, we're seeing now Missouri might be a better team, also beating Kentucky this week. So for that reason, I am going to go with the Gators. Like I said, I think Gillespie can have a good game just because I'm not super high on Florida's guards. But honestly, Nate Ament, you see they're the leading rebounder for the Volunteers. Like, he was kind of supposed to be the go-to guy, the stud freshman for this team this year. And he just really hasn't been so far. And I just kind of like the experience on the Florida side. Plus, just being a home atmosphere, being a rockin' crowd in Gainesville. So for that reason, give me Florida to take this one. And honestly, I'll probably take them to cover that spread as well. Then next, we move to the Big Ten, also at 11 noon Eastern on Saturday. The 10th ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers, 15-0, head to the 12-3 Indiana Hoosiers. This one's on Big Ten Network. Indiana currently a 3.5 point favorite. This one at the total set at 148.5. So Nebraska ball, the story of college basketball. As you can see there, Renick Mass, their leader, averaging 16 points per game, 6 rebounds. Sam Hoiberg, their leading assist guy. Peyton Samford's also been playing really well for them. So a lot of, go-to guys on this Husker team that have been playing really well while they're undefeated, winning against Michigan State, a really electric game last Friday, taking down Ohio State on the road, close game on Monday here, but able to eke out the win, where just down the stretch they made winning plays. And then on the Indiana side, they're also, rolling here, winning against Washington at home last Sunday, and then a nice win on, I believe that was Wednesday, at Maryland, where they just really kind of dominated that one as well. For the Hoosiers, their leader's Lamar Wilkerson, averaging 19 points per game. He just has the ability to fill the bucket. I want to say he had like 24 or something in that Maryland game. Like, he's just a really good scorer. So between him and then Connor Enright there in the backcourt, averaging 4.8 assists per game. The Hoosiers, they have some guys. I think they have the guys to hang with Nebraska, and it's one of those. I mean, it's technically, rankings-wise, an upset, similar to that Florida one. This one I say is an upset. And Florida maybe not, just since Tennessee's not as highly ranked. But despite their being favored betting-wise, this is an upset. where I expect maybe since Indiana they won't, but like the fans should be rushing the court after winning this one, after beating this undefeated Nebraska ball team. So for that reason, give me Indiana. I think they pull the upset. I think, like I said, Lamar Wilkerson can have another really big game here, go off and kind of carry the Hoosiers to the victory, put the team on his back. So give me Indiana to take this one. Then next, we have another ranked team going on the road. The 7th-ranked Houston Cougars, 14-1 on the year, head to the 10-4 Baylor Bears. This one's at 1 Eastern, noon Central on Peacock. Houston currently a 4.5-point favorite in this one with a total of 143.5. So Houston, they're led by Kingston Flemings, who had a huge game in their big win against Texas Tech. He had 16 points and 5 assists, and that's what I'm saying. They have all these guys on Houston, like, Emmanuel Sharp, Milo Zuzan, returners from last year. And their best player, honestly, lately has been Kingston Flemings. Rebounding-wise, led by Chris Sinak, who was there in the backcourt or in the front court last year, 7.7 rebounds per game. Plus, they also have JoJo Tugler, who's now healthy, been playing well. On the Baylor side, Cameron Carr's their leader, averaging 20 points per game. And then Powell with 8.4 rebounds. And then OG Agbim, their leading assist guy, with 3.7 assists per game. So Baylor, they haven't really looked great so far. They've lost both their Big 12 games to start here at TCU last week, and then at home against Iowa State, where Iowa State just kind of dominated them. And then Houston, like I said, really nice win against Texas Tech, where they battled back. Kingston Flemings had a really big game in that one. And then came from behind as well against Cincinnati last week on the road. So, like I'm saying, as you can see here, Houston has already come from behind at points this year in the Big 12. I just think they're a better team than Baylor, in all honesty. I mean, I feel like that's pretty obvious here. 14-1, supposed 10-4. Baylor, they played well at points, but I don't know. I just haven't really been super impressed with them this year so far. And it is Houston going on the road, so sometimes, that can get a little iffy here in conference play going on the road. But I think Houston's just kind of too talented for Baylor in this one, even with Baylor having a ex-NBA guy in James Najee. So for that reason, give me the Cougars to go on the road and get the win here. Then next, we move on to the ACC, the only ranked-on-ranked matchup on Saturday. The 21st-ranked SMU Mustangs head to the 6th-ranked Duke Blue Devils. This one's at 2 Eastern, 1 Central on ESPN. Duke currently 11.5-point favorite in this one. And I want to apologize to SMU. I was kind of dissing them in my preview. I forget when it was. One of the videos recently, I was kind of dissing them, saying, like, oh, they're not that good. I mean, they're a good team. They're ranked. They beat North Carolina last week. Granted, they now lose at Clemson this week. Played them. I mean, the score says it was close. Clemson kind of controlled that one the whole game. Like, SMU was in it, but it was just kind of always Clemson leading that game. They're led by Boopie Miller. Like, Boopie Miller is a really fun player to watch. He's averaging over 20 points per game, 7 assists per game. Really good guard. And then Yigitoglu had a really good game against Clemson. Like, I think he does a really good job, like, commanding the post, averaging 8.8 rebounds per game. But they can't beat Clemson. Clemson's no Duke. Duke, insanely good team, as you see here. Cameron Boozer, leader. I mentioned him every game. Leader in every category, but also just really lately, Isaiah Evans has been playing pretty well. Had multiple 20-point games in a row now here, as well as Caleb Foster had a really good game in Duke's win at Louisville here on Tuesday. It was one where the Blue Devils trailed early, and I was like, oh gosh, here we go again, where I'm just at points not super thrilled with this Duke team. Like I said, they're 6th ranked in the country, 14-1. It's maybe a little bit spoiled to me as a Duke fan, but at times, like, there is definitely weaknesses in this team where just offensively they weren't playing well. They weren't really playing good defense. Like, Louisville just could not miss from beyond the arc. But then once those shots ran dry, Duke really just kind of dominated this game here in the second half. And that's where, kind of in this one where Boopie Miller and SMU are the same thing. Like, when they get really hot shooting, they can take you down. But if that's not happening, then it's going to be tough for them to win this just because of how talented this Duke team is. And like I said, really lately it has been more than just Cam Boozer, even though he still leads in every category. I really have been impressed with Evans and Foster lately. So I think Duke should win this one. 11.5 is a lot of points, but honestly, I could see them covering it. So give me the Blue Devils to defend home court. Then we move to the Big East, and this one's a really intriguing one. At 2 Eastern, 1 Central on FS1, St. John's heads to Creighton. The Red Storm are 10-5 on the year. Blue Jays 10-6. Both these teams only 1 loss here in Big East play, coming off nice wins during the week. As Creighton headed to Villanova and went on the road, kind of came from behind in the second half. I felt like watching the highlights of that one. I didn't catch it live just because it was going down at the same time as that Providence-UConn thriller. Like, Creighton just did a really good job of finding their spots to get open shots, and then we're making said shots. And then St. John's gets a much-needed win at Butler, where same thing, they just really kind of dominated this one. Made shots at a really effective rate. And bounce back from a bad home loss against Providence. I guess I was a little bit acting like the sky is falling for St. John's, and granted, they beat Butler, Georgetown, and I forget who their other Big East win is. So like not great teams, but they are still 3-1 in conference. But now I would say this is probably their toughest test to date. They head to a Creighton team, 4-1 in the Big East. Saw them live against Butler a couple weeks ago, and I just think this Creighton team shoots the ball really well. Really, they should be undefeated in Big East play. They fumbled that game away against Seton Hall last Sunday. So led by Josh Dix, averaging 12 points per game. And then Green's their leading rebounder at 5, and then Nick Graves leading assist guy with 3.5. On the St. John's side there, you see Zuby Ejiofor. He's the leader in every category for them. He's their go-to guy, 100%. And that is the one thing where I think Creighton could struggle in this game is I don't really know if they have the bigs to stick with Ejiofor. Like I think Zuby's going to feast. He's going to have a really good game in this one. But in all honesty, like I just really like this Creighton team. Maybe it's a little bias of where I've like borderline, like I said, I went to the game there. I'm kind of in on it, the path, like I'm all in. But I think like that place is, Creighton's Arena, Shai Health Center in Omaha, very tough place to play. And I think, St. John's here, being on the road this week, granted, Creighton also on the road to start the week, but then you come home where St. John's now here 2 straight road games. I think just because of that home court advantage, I am going to go with Creighton to win this one. I don't really think it's an upset. I don't know why there's no line out for this one. I'm trying to, let's see if I can find projections here quickly. Looking at the projections here, it does have Creighton pulling out a 1-point win, so I'm going to agree with that. I think it's going to be a close one. Like I said, I think Ejiofor will have a big game, but I think guys like Josh Dix and then Austin Swartz, who's the Blue Jays leader in the last one, are going to be able to find a way to fill the bucket, especially from beyond the arc. And for that reason, I'm going to go Creighton to get the win. Then we're going to go back to the Big 12 here. As the top team in the country, the number 1 Arizona Wildcats, 15-0, 2-0 in the Big 12, head to the TCU Horned Frogs, who are 11-4 on the year, 1-1 in Big 12 play. Arizona currently is 7.5-point favorite in this one, but I don't know. I always think it's interesting when the number 1 team has to go on the road, especially at a TCU team who had Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse, probably the toughest place to win. There's just something about the air there in Allen Fieldhouse where whether it's like the aura of, the history, I think they get a little bit of a hometown whistle, all kind of sorts of stuff where they had the win in hand and they just blew it. They were just sloppy, turned the ball over, missed shots down the stretch, committed a horrible foul late, and gave away a game that in all honesty they should have. So if they can compete with the top of the Big 12 like that, like I said, they should have won. It's going to be interesting to see the kind of test they give Arizona here, especially now here at home. Granted, Arizona, 2-0 in Big 12 play, pretty solid wins at Utah versus Kansas State during the week. They're led by Braden Berries, who had a really good game against K-State. I want to say 1 for 20 or something like that. He's leading the way with 15 points per game. Tobe Awaka is their leading rebounder with 10 rebounds. And then Jaden Bradley, their go-to guard, point guard with 4.6 assists. On the TCU side, it's David Punch. He went for 20 in that game against Kansas. He's their leader with 14 points and 7 rebounds. And then it was Leviticus, something like that, who went for 23 as a leader, also kind of go-to guy for TCU here. So like I said, I do just want to feature this one because I do think when the top team in the country goes on the road, especially like I said, this TCU team I think is good. They're hard to figure out because like they started their season losing at New Orleans, but they played Michigan really close. They've played some teams pretty close, given some teams a tough game. But Arizona, I just think Arizona's that good. I think what we're kind of seeing here from Michigan this week, granted, I don't know why I'm discussing Michigan in this recap necessarily, but I do just kind of almost think Arizona at this point is a different tier above everyone else. And while this, I think, could be a close game, like I could see TCU covering the 7.5, I do think Arizona still gets the win. And then the final power conference game we're going to feature here on Saturday, the 15th ranked Arkansas Razorbacks, 12-3 on the year, 2-0 in SEC play, head to the Auburn Tigers, who are 9-6, 0-2, maybe controversially in SEC play. They had a buzzer beater waved off in their game against Texas A&M over the week. However, I guess maybe that's a little home cooking after they got kind of lucky to force overtime against Georgia in their first game in SEC play, but end up still taking that loss. So 0-2, really in need of an SEC win here. Arkansas, nice win last week against Tennessee, and then handle Ole Miss, who's not very good on the road earlier in this week. So for Arkansas, their leaders, Darius Acuff, you see they're leading in points and assists with nearly 20 points per game, 6 assists. Really been a stud freshman for them. I've been really impressed with him. He's a lot of fun to watch if you don't watch a ton of Arkansas basketball. Definitely recommend checking him out. And then Trayvon Brazil's their leading rebounder at nearly 7 rebounds a game. On the Auburn side, it's Keyshawn Hall, their leader with 20 points, 8 boards. And then Tahad Pettiford, who was on the team last year, playing a bigger role now, nearly 3 assists per game. So Arkansas currently 1.5 point favorite in this one. But I don't know, Neville Arena is just it's a tough place to play. Like Texas A&M being able to go in there and get that win, especially in the result they did, it was very impressive. Or this is one of those, I kind of want to take the Tigers in this one, but I don't know. Just like seeing how it's kind of some of their late games where it's, however, I don't know. I guess that's more they've kind of came back here in late games rather than like blowing games. So I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Auburn to pull the upset in this one. I think this should be a really competitive game. Like I said, Acuff is just a lot of fun to watch, but him and Hall going back and forth, I really think will be a good matchup. I think two guys that can really fill the bucket. Like I see this being a high-scoring one. You see a total there of 171.5. I like the over there, despite it being such a high number. Like I said, I think these two dudes will really just like find a way to fill the bucket. But I am going to go with Auburn to pull the upset in this one over Arkansas. Then quickly, just some mid-major games to feature here real quick. In the A10, 11-5, VCU goes to 15-1 George Mason. George Mason, their only loss so far this year is to Vatech. As you can see, they're 3-0. Top of the A10 here. I think this will be a fun one. Obviously, I featured VCU earlier this week. If you watched my video when they were taking on St. Louis, who's another undefeated A10 team, and that was VCU's only loss here so far in the year. They're led by Hill Jr. going for 14 points per game. They played St. Louis tough, but it was one of those where like you could just kind of tell St. Louis is the better team. Like VCU just really never had enough to get over the hump. On the George Mason side, they're led by Kerry Mincy going for nearly 17 points per game, a guy that can just really fill the bucket for George Mason. These two teams, it's an in-state rivalry here. I think it'll be a lot of fun game here on ESPNU at noon Eastern to start your day. If you kind of need an extra game to tune into, throw in your quad box or something, I think this one will be a fun one. But looking here, I probably do like George Mason just with them being at home. Plus, VCU, they're coming off, a tough loss there, one they wanted to have against St. Louis, just couldn't get over the hump. Like I said, I think George Mason will be one of those teams competing here at the top of the A10. So give me the Patriots, take this one. Then we move to the CUSA. Liberty, 12-3 on the year, 4-0 in CUSA, heads to Sam Houston, who's 9-6, 1-3 in CUSA. This one's at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. But the interesting thing with this one, Sam Houston is yet to lose at home this year. Their one win in conference was at home against Delaware. And Liberty, they've been fun. They've played a lot of close games, like going to Dayton, beating FAU team. They have some quality wins. Like I said, I think they're the top team here in the Conference USA. The favorites to win the conference. They're 4-0 so far in conference play. But like I said, going to Sam Houston here, I think this one could be a close one. It's projected to be a close one. Po Boy King, the leader for Sam Houston State, averaging 12 points per game. On the Liberty side, their main go-to guy there is Zach Cleveland. He's been there a couple years now. He's averaging eight rebounds a game, 7 assists. And then Decker Jr. averaging nearly 18 points as their scorer. So I do think Liberty will win this one, but like I said, I think it's going to be one that'll be a close game where, it's never easy to just go undefeated here in conference play. I think the Bearcats could give the Flames a tough game here, but I do think Liberty still ends up picking up on the road. And then the final mid-major game here will feature going to the Missouri Valley. This one's on ESPNU at 6 Eastern. The Northern Iowa Panthers, 12-4 on the year, 4-1 in the Valley, head to the 11-6 Bradley Braves, who are 4-2. So Northern Iowa lost during the week to Belmont. They were projected to win this game, but Belmont ended up just kind of running them out of the gym a little bit here. Northern Iowa made it a closer game late, but Belmont never really struggled in that one. And then Bradley, as you can see there, gets a nice win against Drake. However, did lose their previous 2 games to Murray State and Belmont. So really here in the Valley, all these top 6 teams like Murray State, Illinois State, Northern Iowa, Belmont, Bradley, I think they can all compete for the conference title here. I think this is going to be a big game that kind of plays a big role in going in that race. But with it just being at Bradley, tough place to play. I've been to some games there. I'm going to go with the Braves to take this one. Then looking at the rest of the games here on Saturday, Michigan and Wisconsin could be a good one. That one's at noon Eastern on CBS. Conference game there. Michigan barely escaped over Penn State during the week. Now they have the Badgers at home. Same thing there. Then this Penn State team goes to Purdue. Tough week for them. Having played the 2 best teams in the conference. Stanford going to Virginia on the CW. Ibuka Okoro, got to shout him out, win for 31, including the game winner at Vatech during the week. Can he now, maybe do the same here at Virginia? Would be interesting to see. BYU heads to Utah in a late game here. A.J. Debance, best player in the country. Definitely got to check him out if you have not yet. Texas Tech heading to Colorado at 7 Eastern on CBS Sports Network. I think it'd be a fun one. Like I said, never easy to go on the road in conference play. Clemson, Notre Dame, checked to be a close one as well. Clemson, nice win over SMU during the week. Missouri at Ole Miss. Mizzou now 2-0 in conference play after wins over Florida and Kentucky. Head to an Ole Miss team on the road. That one could be fun. Other than that, I think I've touched on most of these. Like I said, Saturday it's pretty loaded early. There's a couple games later that could be good, but I think we touched on most of them. So let's move on to Sunday here. Illinois, the 16th ranked team in the country, heads to 19th ranked Iowa as the game of the day here on Sunday. This one's at noon Eastern on Fox. So Keaton Wagler, the leading scorer now for the Fighting Illini, going for 15 points per game as well as 3 assists. And then Mirakovic is their leading rebounder, 8 points per game. On the Iowa side, they're led by Bennett Sturts going for 18 and 5 assists, as well as then Manuanu is their leading rebounder with nearly 5 rebounds a game. So Iowa, they got upset over the week at Minnesota. They were down big, came back, tied the game, but Minnesota ends up picking up the win. Sturts had a look at the buzzer, just couldn't hit it. And then Illinois, 2 straight Big Ten wins here after losing to Nebraska back in December on a buzzer beater. That was kind of the start of the whole Nebraska ball run. So these are two teams, this is kind of an underrated rivalry. These two teams don't like each other. Maybe not as much now with Fran McCaffrey gone. And then Ben McCollum here at the helm for the Hawkeyes. But they're both teams that can really score the ball at an effective rate. So I do think this is going to be a very fun one. But it's one of those that I just kind of lean, like I said, home conference or home court advantage, especially here in conference play, it matters a bunch. And I think it's just going to be tough to go there into Carver Hawkeye Arena for the Fighting Illini. So for that reason, give me Iowa to take this one. And then the mid-major game here on Sunday, maybe not as exciting as some of these ones here on Saturday, but in the American Conference, the 7-7 Memphis Tigers, 2-0 in conference play, head to the Florida Atlantic Owls, 10-6 on the year, 2-1 in conference play. This one's at 1 Eastern on ESPN2. So the Tigers, led by Doug McDaniel, averaging 14 points per game, 5 assists, and then Vanderpool, the leader for FAU, averaging 16 points per game and 6 rebounds. So these are two teams that may be a little disappointing. They're going to be fighting there for the top of the American, but as you can see, Temple and Tulane undefeated, leading the way right now. And Tulane beat FAU earlier here this year. Not playing great basketball as of late, but granted some tougher games. Tulane, UCF, and St. Mary's here for the Owls. On the Memphis side, tough loss. I was actually really impressed how they played against Vanderbilt, and then losing to Mississippi State as well. So Memphis has played a lot of teams that are very good in all honesty. They played Louisville, they played Vanderbilt. So they've had a tough game. They haven't had an easy schedule. You maybe look there at a 7-7 record, say that's not very good, but so be it. I think they're a good team, and honestly, McDaniel is a lot of fun to watch. And I think he can lead the Tigers to this win on the road, so give me Memphis to take this one. And then Sunday here, it's a pretty slow slate. Like I said, that Illinois-Iowa game is definitely the best one. There's a couple other Big Ten games, like Ohio State finished off their Pacific Northwest trip after beating Oregon on Thursday night. They then head to Washington on Sunday. We got Northwestern and Rutgers. Northwestern, scrappy team here in the Big Ten. Rutgers not very good, but you never know. Maybe that one could be a game. Then you just kind of some other American games, some Horizon League games, but Iowa, Illinois is definitely the one to watch here on Sunday. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's try to hit 60 subscribers here by the end of conference play. And as well, you're down there, check out all my other socials. I've been posting a lot on TikTok and Twitter. TikTok, if we can get to 100 followers on there by the end of conference play, that'd be huge. Like I said, do a lot of the clips from this show, as well as just some other content on there. And then Twitter, I'm tweeting out all my takes, stuff like that. Make sure to comment your picks for all these games. Like I said, I'm going to shout some of you guys out here every episode now going forward for getting some picks correct. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.